Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to SmartWatch Tics. You remember when we did the overview of the new Kingwear KW98 that we checked to see if there was an update for the firmware, and yes, there was. And I mentioned, well, we would install that firmware and see what changes would happen. We're about to do that. Just as a reminder, the KW98 running the original KW88 software, which allowed us to put on these specialized custom watch faces. Now, on the KW88, when we did a firmware update, we lost the ability to put the custom watch faces on the watch in this format, but picked up a way of putting the watch faces on in a different format. So, just in case that happens, we wanted to verify that we were able to get those custom watch faces on here, and we were. The other thing we noticed was in the apps, because it's a KW98 running KW88 firmware, we had an app for a camera and gallery, and there's no camera here. So, of course, when this is updated to the firmware to run specifically on the KW98, it won't have either of those apps. The update that's awaiting for us today, well, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's the full update to the KW98 or if it's just an incremental update to the KW88. We're currently on the December 15th, 2016 firmware, and the wireless update says that we should have one, and we do. So we're going to go ahead and download it, and we're going to install the firmware. Now, those of you who've never done this before, this is a good experience for you. You see what we did? We went into our settings, went to the About, and then checked the wireless update or upgrade. And if you have one, it'll go through this process, and then you press the button. And it says, determine the need to upgrade, yes. And it goes through rebooting itself. So it's going to turn off, and then it's going to install the new firmware, and then it'll reboot itself again. So we'll be back when that finishes. Okay, we're back. Let's see what we've got. From the settings into About and down to the bottom. We are now on the January 12th, 2017 firmware update. Now on the KW88, as you recall, from a video we already did on this, there was a change in this firmware that modified how we can deal with the watch faces. It added this one, you remember that? On the KW88, which is pretty spectacular. Now it's here on the KW98, and all of these custom faces no longer work. If you select one, it says it's an error and it bops you out somewhere. So the only recourse you have is to uninstall those. Otherwise, it goes back to the very first default face. So we no longer can use the APK style of installing custom watch faces, although if you had some in there, the little thumbnails are going to show up. So how do you get rid of all of that? Simple. You head over to your settings, and you go down to uninstall applications, and you uninstall each and every one of them. And I have a whole bunch in here. So I'm just going to uninstall a couple of them. Simple as that. Uninstall. And you just go through all of the faces. You'll know they're the ones with the little green icon next to them. If you have custom faces, they've got to go. However, like I said, you can put in a different kind of face, and I'll be back and show you some of those. Oh, before we do that, I also wanted to take a look and see if we still have the camera. Yep, we do. Camera and gallery, which means that we're still looking at the KW88 firmware. This is not the full revision for the KW98, just the latest KW88. But it's cool because the way it handles watch faces is way better now. You're about to see that. Boom, okay. I've taken off all of those other watch face APKs through that uninstall process, so they're not in here cluttering things up. And I went over and I drug over a clock skin folder from my computer full of some brand new designer-developed watch faces that you've never seen before. Unless you're really into this stuff, then you might have found them on the web somewhere, kind of hidden away. But you're about to see them now. I guess you did see this one. I think this one was shown on one of the other videos. And the thing I want to tell you that's different about these watch faces now, with this new update to the firmware on both the KW88 and the 98, well, which is still the KW88. I presume the 98 firmware will still handle all of this. We're hoping. Anyway, notice all the different rotating dials and things, all the digital stuff, all the positioning that you can do with all of this. That kind of capability exists in the full clock engine, which supports all these different watch faces. It wasn't there in the simple APKs. All you could really do is have, 3 hands and a background image, pretty much. Maybe if you're lucky, figure out how to put the date. But these watch faces are incredible and very sophisticated, very eloquent designs, and can't really talk about them, sort of like this watch. They're out there, and if you are creative, you'll be able to find them. I just wanted to show you the dynamic range of capabilities that exist for creating watch faces for these watches. And stuff like that. I mean, look at that fine detail. Look at the edge-to-edge bezel-less display on the KW98. This is going to be one killer watch when it gets to the market. All right, these go on and on and on, and I'm not really doing a watch face review here. I was trying to show you what it looked like when we updated the firmware and how you can check and see what the changes are, especially a radical firmware update like we just went through for the KW88 and now the KW98's firmware installation. You have been watching what? SmartWatch Ticks. Yeah, yes, indeed. And I appreciate your subscription. We have a lot more goodies to come, including when this firmware is fully updated on the KW98. We're going to come back and do a review of that new firmware and what kind of changes we will be seeing in the future as this watch goes to market. Again, if you are interested in this watch, you can monitor the show notes down below the original review video. I'm not going to put it on all of these videos, but go back to the one where we did the first look at the KW98, and I'll have buying links down there for you where you can actually purchase this, probably pre-launch and probably pretty soon. We're hoping that this is going to be to market fairly quickly because Kingwear has actually given us the opportunity to preview these things, and here they are. Now, this one's really incredible. I don't know how they're doing this. I think I'll stop there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.